And also, like, recruiting that program at that time, I'm sure was a lot easier than what Billy Napier's having to do right now. So, I mean, yeah, I would expect Ron Zook those years to be better, like first 2-3 years, like with what Billy Napier's got to go up against, with Georgia being a juggernaut in the SEC East and Tennessee now emerging in the SEC East too. It's like there's a lot of challenges, especially if Florida State's not going away.
That's fair. I'm not a Napier long-term believer. I don't think he's gonna be the guy.
It's gonna be tough, that's for sure, but we'll see.
Is Oregon the best sleeper pick here? I feel like your answer is yes here.
Because they're my pick, so yeah, I would say definitely they're the best pick.
I was
also surprised to hear.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, building up what you said, because I had this on my list here, was like Oregon. I think they're my best sleeper pick because I think it's a little bit different than Wildcard. I think they're the best sleeper pick because I don't think anyone's going to be talking about Oregon winning the national title.
Do we have a distinction? Do we have a definition there with Wildcard versus sleeper?
Yeah, because Wildcard, people are going to talk about it going into the year. Wildcard is like, because that piece is getting written, and like people are going to talk about it in college football conversations. Like the Wildcard, like USC with Caleb Williams, a Heisman quarterback. They're a great Wildcard team. Like Texas A&M, wild card, where it's like if it all works together, Texas A&M, like that's going to be a conversation starter at the water cooler for a lot of folks here in the South come football season. There's going to be a lot of
Texas for sure. Like this is the year for Texas, that sort of thing.
Oregon is just going to be out there on the outskirts because they're in a forgotten conference that who knows what their TV deal looks like. They are not USC. They don't have a Heisman favorite. They're kind of just going to be like Dan Lanning's not Chip Kelly.
Don't they have a Heisman favorite? Like, I think Bo Nix is like top 5 in Heisman odds right now.
It just doesn't feel like you lose Kenny Dillingham to Arizona State, so we'll see what the new offensive coordinator looks like there. But it's not like they have it's not the Oregon of old, like Chip Kelly Oregon, where there's a lot more flash, there was a lot more notoriety. Like Dan Lanning's not the same kind of dude. And I'm not saying that as a shot, I'm just saying they're different. And I think Oregon was ahead of schedule significantly last year. They are in the right spot in the blue chip ratio. I think it's going to be really hard for Utah to redo exactly what they did a year ago. Michael Penix has to stay healthy for a full year at Washington. The Pac-12 is loaded all across the board. Like you have NFL quarterbacks everywhere, it seems like. But if you were to say...
Well, let's not forget, too, that like they didn't fire Cristobal. Like Cristobal bounced. So like they were doing well. Like he didn't take over a rebuild like some of these other coaches did.
For sure. And you also look, guess what? Oregon has a history. USC doesn't have a history in the CFP yet. Washington doesn't have a history. Oregon has a history.
Hey, Washington's got one. You bite your tongue, sir.
Oregon's played well in both of theirs. Like, Oregon has at least a history. Like, Marcus Mariota had his time. And you look at, they made it twice.
That was the one. They just won. They won a game. So they played 2 games.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more. They've won a CFP game, which
that's a short list for sure
to win a playoff game. That's important. I just think, like you said, with the Bo Nix stuff, if you were to tell me Bo Nix was a Heisman guy, the defense was elite. They have dudes on both sides of the ball that they could theoretically win a national title. I think of this group, I think they're the best CFP sleeper to win the national title, where I'm like, if you told me that no one was talking about them until November and they're sitting there at 11-1 and they win the Pac-12 title game convincingly, they get like, I don't know, Texas in the CFP opener, or they get Alabama or something, and they beat Alabama because Alabama's offense isn't great, and they just withstand that, and then Georgia loses somehow to somebody else in the first round. You're like, oh, that's a path, because we saw Georgia Oregon this past year, and that was a bloodbath. I probably would not take Georgia losing to Oregon in the CFP next year, but if they can avoid
it's a new year, but I don't
know if it's going to be that big of a change in 1 year. You could see it. Like it's hard, but I could at least see it. I think they're the best sleeper pick for me.
Yeah, I don't hate that. One team that like it's hard to, I don't know what to classify them as, is Michigan. It's like they feel like a sleeper. They're down here 54%, 14th in the blue chip ratio, below Penn State. And like they've won the damn conference 2 years in a row, like and gotten to the playoff. But it feels like like you got Ohio State right up there at 85% at number 2, and people talking like myself included, like this is the year Penn State breaks through. We're just all kind of they kind of feel like Georgia or so from like 2020, 2021. Like they just got their head down, going about their business. Everyone's focusing on everyone with the shiny toys and all the big offensive numbers and everything. And they're just, they're chopping wood, if you will, just kind of doing their thing. And they feel like they have a chip on their shoulder, and they're kind of that forgotten about kind of powerhouse program in the Big Ten. I don't know to call them. Can you call them a sleeper when they've won the conference back-to-back years? But it feels like we're kind of sleeping on them again.
Yeah.